Welcome to Storytime with Grammy Field. Today's book is called Cobweb Christmas, The Tradition of Tinsel. It's written by Shirley, Climo, and illustrated by Jane Manning. Maybe it's Climo, I'm not quite sure. Once upon a Christmas time, long ago in Germany, there was a little old woman. She was so little, she had to stand on a stool to climb into bed, and so old, she couldn't even count all the Christmases she had seen. The children in the nearby village called her Tante, which means Auntie in German. Tante lived at the edge of the pine forest in a tiny cottage just large enough for her to keep a canary for singing, a cat for purring, and a dog to lie beside the fire. Squeezed up against the cottage was a barn. In it, Tante kept a donkey for riding and a goat for milk and cheese. She had a noisy rooster to wake her up in the morning and a speckled hen to lay an egg for her breakfast. She looks like a sweet little lady. With so many animals about, her little cottage wasn't very tidy, but a bit of fur, a few feathers, or a spider web or two didn't bother Tante, except once a year, when the days got short and the nights grew long. The old lady would nod her head and say, "Time to clean for Christmas." Then Tante shook the quilt and scoured the kettle until it shone. She scrubbed the floor on her hands and knees and stood tiptoe on her stool to sweep the cobwebs from the rafters. "Shoo!" said Tante. She swished her broom and sent every spider and each wisp of web flying out the door. When she cleaned her home from corner to corner, the little old woman nodded and said, "Time to fetch Christmas." Look at her go, working top to bottom, side to side all over her little cottage. Tante took an axe from the barn and hung the harness with bells on the donkey. She scrambled onto his back and they trotted into the forest. They circled round and round until the old lady cried, "There!" She pointed to the pine tree no bigger than she was. "That's the one, right there," she told the donkey. Tante chopped down the tree, taking care to leave a bough behind so it might grow again. Then, bells jingling, they went home, only now the donkey carried the tree upon his back and Tante skipped along beside him. The tree fit perfectly in the tiny cottage. The old woman nodded and said, "Time to make Christmas." Tante made cookies for the tree. She baked gingerbread boys and girls. She rolled sugar cookies shaped like new moons and cut cinnamon cookie stars. She rubbed apples until they gleamed like glass to hang from the branches too. Next, she put a red ribbon on a bone for the dog and tied a sprig of catnip for the cat. Tante scattered corn for the chickens and seeds for the canary, and she heaped oats in a basket for the donkey and goat. Then the old woman nodded and said, "Time to share Christmas." Each year, Tante invited the village children to come and see her tree. "Tante," they shouted, "it's the most wonderful tree in the world. Tell me if it tastes as good as it looks," she'd ask. After the children nibbled the apples and the cookies and ate every crumb of gingerbread, they hurried home to put their shoes by their doors for Kris Kringle. He was the Christmas visitor who went from house to house tucking gifts into waiting shoes. I knew I'd like this lady a bit. She loves kids just like I do. Then Tante asked the animals to share Christmas. The dog, the cat, the canary, the hen, the rooster, and some small, shy, wild creatures crowded around the tree. The donkey and the goat peered in the doorway. Tante had something for everyone except the spiders, for they'd all been brushed away. But no one could give the little old lady what she wanted. All her life, Tante had heard tales about marvelous happenings on Christmas Eve. Animals might speak aloud, bees might hum carols, or cocks crow at midnight. Tante wished she could witness a bit of Christmas magic too. She sighed and sat down in her rocking chair. "Time to wait for Christmas," said the old lady, and she nodded and nodded her head. Tante was so tired from cleaning and cooking that she fell fast asleep. She did not know if the rooster crowed when the clock struck 12 or if the dog whispered secrets to the cat, and she did not hear the squeaking voices calling at her door saying, "Let us in, let us in." She was tired. Someone else heard. Kris Kringle was passing the cottage on his way to take toys to the village children. He stopped to listen and saw hundreds of spiders on Tante's doorstep. "We have never shared Christmas," the biggest spider explained. "Each year, Tante sweeps us away. Please, Kris Kringle, would you let us see Tante's tree?" Kris Kringle looked down at the spiders. "There's no harm in that," he said. Before he went on to the village, he opened Tante's door a crack. Can you see all the little spiders down here? Huge spiders, tiny spiders, smooth spiders, hairy spiders, spotted spiders, striped spiders, brown and black and yellow spiders, and the palest kind of see-through spiders came. Creeping, crawling, sneaking softly, scurrying, hurrying, quickly, lightly, zigging, zagging, weaving and wobbling into the old woman's cottage. The curious spiders crept closer and closer to Tante's tree. 1, 2, 3 skittered up the trunk, and all the other spiders followed. Can you imagine all those spiders? What do you think's going to happen? Silently, they ran from branch to branch, back and forth, up and down the tree. Wherever the spiders went, they left a trail behind. Threads looped from limb to limb, and webs were woven everywhere. Now, the busy little spiders had shared Christmas. They had seen and felt every twig on the tree, so they scuttled away. When he had put a gift in all the children's shoes, Kris Kringle returned to latch Tante's door. He peeked inside and discovered her tree tangled with sticky, stringy cobwebs. He knew how hard the old lady had worked to make Christmas and how dismayed she'd be when she saw her tree. But he didn't blame the spiders for being curious. Instead, he decided to leave a special gift for Tante too. Gently, Kris Kringle touched each web. Beneath his finger, the slender strands gleamed like gold, and the dangling threads sparkled silver. Now, Tante's Christmas tree was truly the most wonderful in the world. Look what Kris Kringle is doing. The rooster woke Tante in the morning. The old lady blinked in amazement at her glittering tree. "Something magical has happened," she cried, and she climbed on her stool for a better look. At the top of the tree, she saw one small spider finishing its web. "Ah," Tante nodded her head. "So it is you and your kin. I have to thank for this Christmas magic. And I don't know if you can see it, but the last little spider is right here. The little old lady understood that such wonders only happen once. Each Christmas thereafter, she did not clean so carefully, but left a few webs in the rafters so that the spiders might share Christmas too. And every year, after she hung the cookies and the apples on her tree, she would nod and say, "Time for Christmas magic." Then Tante would weave tinsel among the branches until her tree sparkled with strings of gold and silver, just as it did that magical cobweb Christmas. And that's the end of the story. I guess we learned a little bit as to why people put tinsel on their tree. Well, anyways, I hope you enjoyed that story, and thank you for joining me for story time.